Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel and podcasting network. My name is Chris Halicke. Matt Williamson joining me. What's going on, my friend? It's been a little bit of a quiet week, huh?
How you doing, dude? It's been a little while.
Yeah.
You did some vacation. I mean, it's summer. Sometimes we got to miss one of these Southside beats. But in the meantime, a little something happened around the Steelers, huh?
Yeah. So, literally less than 5 minutes after I hit the road to drive back to Pennsylvania
Really?
from Texas, notification came across my phone. Steelers are acquiring Jalen Ramsey from the Miami Dolphins. Definitely was like, all right, so let me pull into this Whataburger parking lot. My wife and I swapped places. She got in the driver's seat. I got in the passenger seat. I got to work. Not much longer after that, we learned that Minkah Fitzpatrick is the main piece being sent back to the Dolphins. It's like, whoa, okay, this is a little bit more crazy than it already was. Then we obviously learned that Jonnu Smith was also part of the trade, along with a late round pick swap in 2027. So Omar Khan pulls this off, holds on to all of the draft capital next year. Initial reaction to the trade, and then it's been a few days. That was Monday. It's now Thursday. Having a couple of days to chew on it. Where are you with this?
I love Minkah, and I think Minkah's gotten a little bit of a bad rap of, boy, he's not the player he was when he got here, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think he's been a little more of a scapegoat than deservedly so, because he's not having an interception every other game, you know.
Right.
But he has a pronounced effect on the game no matter what, and he will be missed. But I love the trade. I mean, I think there's a couple things about it. The big picture stuff is going from Minkah to Thornhill is so much less. And I think Minkah and Ramsey are basically equal players, same tier at least, than going from Ramsey to Beanie Bishop. You know what I mean?
Right.
The gap there is so much different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of this trade, especially from the Dolphins side, but for both sides to tango, is about money, and the Dolphins are really up against it. And I think Omar's done a tremendous job of being liquid that way, of having this money in his back pocket to make these type of deals, as well as future picks. And the other big trend to me is versatility. I mean, these two players they added do a lot of different things. And Minkah's versatile too, but they didn't really use him in a versatile manner. He played a lot of single high, middle of the field close, cover three. And you and I even hinted at this before the trade. I think more cover two, cover four, blitzing.
I hope for more cover four so much.
Me too. And I think the tea leaves are telling us that they will be much less static on defense. And their offense will be even more unique, for better or worse. And last note on it is, I think there's a misconception with maybe not our listeners, but Steeler Nation that, man, Steelers are really pushing all their chips in to win now. Kinda, but not. They're not forfeit. It's not the Rams going 9 years in a row getting rid of first-round picks. I mean, they're doing it by not getting rid of any future assets, and they still have gobs of cap space this upcoming free agency period, even probably after a Watt deal, tons a year after, and we know about all the picks they have. So it hasn't changed the future at all. It just helps you win now. And yeah, you're a little bit old, but that's okay,
Well, it's okay because a lot of this is temporary. I mean, yeah, like when you look at some of the guys they're locking up, even by doing this. Yeah, like DK Metcalf is, how old is he? I mean, he's not even 30.
He's under 30, yeah.
Yeah, so you're locking him up. Okay, well, he's not even 30 yet, so you're good. Jalen Ramsey, yeah, he's got a few years left on that deal, but he's also just now 30 and will turn 31 in the during the season. And by the time that contract's up, he's going to be younger than Darius Slay is now.
Right,
so,
okay.
So, like, I mean, he's got, 3 more years after this, I think?
I think so, yeah.
So
and maybe he's a safety at that point, or right.
Right. So he'll be the same age that Darius Slay is by the time Like the same age Darius Slay is now. He'll be the same age of that by the time this contract comes to an end.
Okay.
So I don't think this is going to be like those two guys that you're committing to are. It's not like you're paying, you're I mean, I understand everybody's concerned about TJ Watt and everything, about the age and how much you're going to pay him and everything, but he's also one of the best defensive players in the league.
He's great though. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So,
like a couple of the real short-term guys, like if you just look at collective age on the team,
yeah,
Slay, Siamalu, Rogers,
and Rogers,
they're not going to be around much long. I mean, they might get 1 year out of all those guys,
Right. Rogers is like, and he drives that average age up a lot just by being 41 years old. So
I remember having this conversation when the Bucs had Brady. It was like, well, if you take the 43-year-old out of the equation, it's a lot different, right? Because they are playing a lot of young guys, and they have to continue to draft well. Of course, but that's no different than any other team.
And that's the big thing. Like I see the I don't even like calling them talking heads anymore. I like calling them screaming heads. The national screaming heads on TV. When you see them, there's one guy right now in particular who's just constantly talking about the Steelers spend more on defense than anything else, and they're never going to be able to do anything until they get their heads out of 1974 and become
they're stuck
more modern.
In the Stone Ages. They think you win with defense. And
it's like that's not what they're doing. They're spending that much money on that side of the ball right now because they've got four guys on rookie contracts on the offensive line.
Right.
They just shelled out $150 million to DK Metcalf.
Right.
And when they draft their franchise quarterback, maybe even as early as next year, that guy's going to be on a rookie contract for 4 to 5 years.
Like the Bengals offense was one of the cheapest in the league until they had to pay Chase Higgins, left tackle, and Burrow. Right. It's not like it's a philosophical thing. Is we want to lead the league in defensive spending and be last in offensive spending. Just how it's going right now.
It's just hilarious how like everybody thinks that that's what they're doing, and they see this like listen, when you look at where the Steelers' biggest holes were on this roster, yes, wide receiver 2 is probably still the biggest one, and it was the biggest one before.
You agree though, Smith helps that a little bit.
He does. He does help that. I do still think they need to get a WR2.
Me too. I think there's another shoe to drop. Yeah.
But at least now you've added another legitimate, dangerous pass catcher to the mix that can catch. I mean, he just proved it last year. Can catch almost 90 passes if he needs to.
Right.
He can move the chains for you. And my God, he can help you attack the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Because now you've got two guys. Yes, you got two guys in him and Pat Freiermuth who are going to be able to do all the quick game stuff that Aaron Rodgers likes to run, all the stick, all the slants, all the quick outs, everything, and then also attack the seams. I mean, dude, man, of all the Jets film I've watched, man, he made some really nice layered throws to Conklin down the seam. With the Jets, and now I'm only imagining that being Pat Freiermuth or now Jonnu Smith. So I absolutely think that this is I think the Steelers are a better football team now. That's not taking anything away from Minka Fitzpatrick.
No,
I still think very highly of him as a football player and think that he's probably going to become a really great coach one day as well. Like I have that much respect for his football IQ and football intelligence, but for what the Steelers needed, they needed more guys who could match cover, who can play man coverage so that they can get back after go back to going after the quarterback. They have that in abundance now, and you're totally fine with Juan Thornhill being the center field guy.
Yeah.
Instead of paying that $20 million or so to Minka Fitzpatrick to pretty much be that guy instead.
That's kind of where I was going to want to lead the show with too. And you asked me, just big picture is Omar's a cap guy. I bet it aided him a little to have that much invested in a safety, because finding what Ramsey does is much harder than finding what Minka does, even though both are exceptional at what they do, especially if you're not going to live in single high, ask him to be Ed Reed. So you can get a starting safety, not Minka Fitzpatrick, in the 3rd round every year. You know what I mean? You can't get a top corner in the 3rd round ever.
And if Juan Thornhill isn't like hampered by a calf injury this time around, he's a pretty decent player. Like,
right.
Like everybody wants to think about what he was in Cleveland. It's like, well, a lot of
track record's pretty good before that, you know, right?
Right. And so if he can even be like 80 to 90% of the guy he was before he went to Cleveland, this is a pretty dangerous secondary. I mean, I'm just saying, just going to put that out there. But we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this because there are a lot of ways that this impacts the roster. It's a gigantic trade. It just is.
It is.
And I do think that the Steelers are a better football team because of it. And we'll talk more about that right after this.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel and podcasting network. I want to get into the fit because we look on paper, you see Joey Porter Jr., see Darius Slay, see Jalen Ramsey, be like, okay, they're loaded at corner.
Mm-hmm.
How does it all fit? How do you make it work? And one question from one guy watching live that kind of goes into this is how does Ramsey compare to Joey Porter Jr.? And the first thing that jumped out to me was they both had an almost exact forced incompletion percentage according to Pro Football Focus last year. Really? So I think Ramsey's was just a little bit better, but still in the same ballpark. Similar ballpark as guys like Marlon Humphrey, other really good corners in the league. So, how does this all fit, Matt?
I think there's still some to be determined there. And
right.
Frankly, this is a good problem to have. The question I get the most is what two corners will be on the field when there's four defensive backs out there?
Yeah.
So my hunch is these are the two options. When there's four defensive backs, Elliott's the strong, Ramsey's the free, Slay and Porter are your outside guys. But what I really think will happen is Thornhill or maybe a safety to be named later, Blackman, Simmons, whatever. We didn't mention that, but they could add another cheap.
Yeah.
Is the free, Elliott's the strong, and Ramsey and Porter are your outside guys, and Slay is on the bench, but also could get mixed in here and there. You know what I mean? Like with four defensive backs on the field. And that sounds like a slight to Slay, but somebody's got to sit. And I think you could sell it to him like this too. Like, we want to save your wheels. You know, you're an older guy.
Yeah.
Instead of playing 95% of the snaps like most corners do, how about you play 75?
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing with Cam Hayward. He was Walter Payton Man of the Year. It's not a slight at you at all. We just understand your age, load management. We want to win playoff games here. I don't need to beat the crap out of you in second and third week of the season. And I think it's pretty clear nickel, Ramsey's your slot, and those are the two outside guys. And then you might even see more nickel than you did, you know.
Well, and Damien here watching live says, assuming our nickel is our main D, which it is, they are a nickel more than anything else. The first two down linemen would be Harmon and Cam. The answer to that most likely is yes.
Maybe Benton over Harmon. I mean, Harmon just proved that. They're not going to give him that job. Right.
No, but Harmon has been officially named a starter by Carl Dunbar. So right. I
assume that means in their Okie though. But
yeah, for sure. Right. But still, like, I'm curious to see that the first time the Steelers line up with two down linemen in training camp, you bet that's where I'm looking first. I'm like, who's next to Cam?
And Cam might not play as many snaps in that role either.
No, it's true. And that's ideally what you want. Yes, you want to have Cam Hayward out there as much as you possibly can because he's still a very, very great player. But at the same time, you want to keep him healthy. You want to keep him fresh for third downs late in the second quarter, for
December
crucial downs in the fourth quarter. And then obviously for December and January, you want to keep these guys fresh. And yes, you can use a similar rotation type situation when it comes to the defensive backs, where Joey Porter and listen,
and of course, injuries are going to be a factor.
Exactly.
You know,
like,
right.
What if Porter misses a game here and there? What if Slay misses a game here and there? Or what if, God forbid, one of them, knocking on wood for everybody here, what if one of them goes down with a long-term injury?
Right.
And
somebody probably will. Right.
Right. And so you want to be as protected as possible. And now, if that's the case, it's not the end of the world. You're not scrambling to sign James Pierre off of a practice squad to be like, all right, well, these are the corners we're rolling with now. And I think for what the Steelers want to do, and I think the reason why they chose to overly commit to solidifying cornerback, and they were even willing to give it Minkah Fitzpatrick to get that, is they do want to play more man coverage this year. And it's very, very clear
that,
yeah, they did not. Mike Tomlin did not trust his team in man coverage last year. He just did.
We've had this conversation, and on my podcast, one of my huge off-season goals is you can't be middle of the road in sacks. And they're good with pressure. They deflect more passes at the line of scrimmage than anyone. They force more fumbles than anyone. They cause a ton of turnovers. But it's kind of your God-given right around here, and especially with that group, to be leading the league in sacks. And not because Watt isn't good or Cam's over the hill. It's because of coverage. They need that quarterback to pat the ball one more time, 3 times a game, and have the ability to blitz a little bit more and mix it up. And I think all these moves really indicate that they understand that.
There's another part of this that I really, really like. And this is something that, and this is not a slight against Darius Slay whatsoever, because I still think he is a very, very good cornerback. And I think Steelers fans are going to learn that this year.
This isn't Patrick Peterson in Pittsburgh.
Took the words right out of my mouth. This is not Pat P 2.0. But I'm thinking of situations in which it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and they want to load up and try to look like the Dick LeBeau zone blitz defenses, where they just have all these guys standing around the line of scrimmage, and you don't know if they're rushing 7 or if they're rushing 3. But if they are going to rush 7, they can jam one receiver on one side with Joey Porter Jr., and they can jam the receiver on the other side with Jalen Ramsey, because as good as Darius Slay is, press man is not his game.
Not really, no. Right.
And not
he can, but right.
It's just, but it's not really. His game is more off the ball, read and react, even in man coverage. Like, he is more of a let me see what you're doing first, and then I'm still quick enough with both my body and more my mind and my eyes to be able to then jump on a ball or do whatever. And he still does that at a very, very, very high level. But there are times in which you need your corners to get right up in receivers' faces and jam them at the line of scrimmage. If they're trying to, if it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, they're just trying to hit that quick slant. It's like, no, we're not going to let you do that. And we're going to make you hold on to the ball for just a half second more. And that half second's all we need for 6 or 7 guys to get to the quarterback.
And along those lines, too, and this probably doesn't shock anyone, and I know Beanie Bishop's kind of popular because he made some big plays, but their numbers versus slot receivers were flat out awful. I mean, slot receivers ripped this team apart.
Yeah.
And the passing games that had the most success were Mahomes. Rodgers was this way against them. Like, the ball came out really, really quick.
Yes.
Now, over the course of the year, their time to throw against wasn't ridiculously quick, but against the big-time quarterbacks late in the year, the ball came out really quick. And it nullified the pass rush a lot. And where I'm going with this is, if I have to swap out Minkah, who plays far away from the line of scrimmage, late in the down stuff is when he affects things, for a player that is going to influence things early in the down, well, I think that's part of the move too,
Yeah. Black and Gold Goggles here says, we never pressed last year. Our corners were always lined up 5 yards off the ball. It's actually not entirely true, because Joey Porter Jr. does press a lot.
Jackson.
Especially no.
Jackson was a problem, folks.
So here's what the Steelers would do a lot, especially when they were in cover 1. Jackson would almost pseudo press up against, but he'd still kind of line up maybe 3 or 4 yards off the line of scrimmage, just so he'd have that extra cushion. Porter would be as close as he possibly could be to the receiver.
Yeah.
He would be flirting.
This is not a Porter problem first.
No, this is not.
Right.
But
long arms and right.
Even whenever the Steelers were in cover 3, which is obviously zone, and both corners, both Porter and Jackson, were responsible for the deep third, Porter would still line up really close to the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He would just at the last second kind of turn, and then he would just start running back to make sure that he could go get the deep third if he needed to. But that's kind of how they kind of disguise between cover 1 and cover 3. And now you can do so much more. Now you can line up. You can do palms with cover 4. You can do match quarters. You can go straight up cover 1 if you want. You can go cover 2 man, which there's not a lot of cover 2 man in the league nowadays. But you can. The playbook doesn't have to be so much. And somebody said it earlier. The playbook doesn't have to be just drop cover 3 all the time now.
Right.
And
Ramsey's a good blitzer. I think Wilson and Queen are good pass rushers, and you didn't use those skills a lot. When you were leading the league in sacks a lot, it's a small thing, but Vince Williams and Hilton would combine for 9 sacks. You didn't get any of that kind of stuff last year.
Yeah, Justin here said it earlier. He said, glad to catch you guys live as always. Would love to see some more match concepts. Spot drop 3 is antiquated. It is.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's
and you can blame the coaching staff, but you also have to look at the players too.
Dante Jackson's not a press man corner.
Right.
Yeah, if you try to do that, people would have had a much different. He wouldn't have had 5 interceptions last year. I'll put it that way. If he played a lot of press man, a lot of the reason why he had interceptions because he was in the right place at the right time because he's a good zone guy. He is. It's just not a press guy. Billy asked a good question here because the domino effect of this is curious. Yeah. Billy asked, what's up with Eccles? Obviously, how does Brandon Eccles play factor into this now? How does Beanie Bishop factor into this? Corey Trice Jr., James Pierre. There's only so many spots on the roster for corners, and I don't think they keep any more than 6.
I would think 6 max, yeah.
So, like
I did a mailbag today, and someone asked me, I think Corey Trice is the biggest benefactor of this because he gets to learn from these guys. I'm like,
yeah,
he might not have a spot on the team. I mean, maybe he does, but I mean, I don't know that Bishop makes a team or practice squad or whatever. I mean, everyone just falls down a rung. And instead of relying on Eccles to be your slot or third corner, now he's your 4th. So it's exactly what you want. And especially at that position, it's hard to find. Frankly, I don't worry about any of those things. I mean, it's a good problem to have. Eccles also has special teams value as
And this is kind of what I wanted to get into with this in terms of the bigger picture. And you got into this in the first segment, but I definitely wanted to dive a little bit more into it. And that's because the NFL and football in general is going to. You're starting to see a lot more cover 4, and a lot of people who don't understand the X's and O's just will think, okay, well, cover 4 means you have 4 deep, and that's a very deep coverage concept. Well, not
don't they run all over you? I always get that question.
No,
don't they have super light boxes? No, because the safeties are very aggressive downhill players.
Exactly, right? Especially if first off, if there's not a number 2 eligible on one side of the formation. That side safety pretty much is already dropping down. Just
kind of think like Cam Chancellor, like a traditional strong safety position in those instances. Yeah.
And so you already have extra run support there for whatever guys you have up front. And then, I mean, with cover 4, you can have as many as 9 defending the run the moment the ball is handed off to the running back. Yeah, if the 2 safeties both crash down, you can have 9 defending the run. Then it's also the best way I can describe it is that it is a zone coverage with man principles. So you can line your corners up 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, and they can still be responsible for a deep quarter. You can have your safeties lined up a little closer to the line of scrimmage if you wanted to, but still have to be responsible for their deep quarter. It just depends on what all the eligibles are doing on each side of the formation. So it is.
And you said it earlier. There's just so many more things they can do than what they did last year, and I'll be very critical of them if they don't. Right. I assume that's the plan. I think you and I are pretty well educated on this stuff, and an art to doing our job is reading the tea leaves of what they're not telling us.
Yeah.
I think their moves really imply that changes in coverage has to come for us to maximize the Watts and Highsmiths of the world as pass rushers too. And along those lines, with the exception now of safety, they have just great depth at every defensive position. Like
right.
Sawyer's a lot different than Herbig. Holcomb's in the mix. We talked about all the corners. D-line might be the deepest position on the team.
So let me put this in a historical context for everybody. Just at the safety, because right now the concern is, how do you replace Minkah Fitzpatrick? Okay, let's put it this way.
They've asked the guy to do different things.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the 2005 Steelers defense, the two starting safeties on that team were Troy Polamalu, obviously phenomenal.
Sure, you like that.
All great, all-time great. The other guy, do you remember who it was?
No, I'm really bad. Like if you say 2005, I can't think of like starters off the top of my head. My brain works weird that way.
So it was Chris Hope.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was the other safety. Fine player.
Yeah, he was good. 3rd round pick out of Florida State. Right. Fine
player. Not anything overly special. Not a bad player at all. You could live with a guy being pretty decent.
Yeah.
If Juan Thornhill is pretty decent, nothing special, nothing amazing, doesn't get, obviously burned a whole bunch, but you have Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey and all these guys that can just lock down in man coverage, you will take that. You're not weak at safety at that point. Because you don't really need to be over. I would rather
having a star there is great, but I can live with 2 adequate players.
Right.
Especially if the pass rush is great and the corners are great. There's a reason those things are more coveted.
Yeah.
And here's one thing I've been saying on the drive with Dale is think about like the 15 defensive players that'll play the most snaps. We're going to include an extra D lineman, Herbig, Slay. If Thornhill's the 15th best of that group, I don't care. That's fine. You know what I mean? Right. Beanie Bishop was that guy. You know what I mean? Like the guys that are out there a lot. If Thornhill's your weakest link, it's a lot better than it was last year.
Oh my gosh, it's so much better.
Yeah.
Seriously,
because I'm not even implying he's a weak link. I mean, if that's just the guy they want to try to go after, it's not as easy said than done either.
Because before the trade, your weakest link was like in your nickel defense, which again, we'll go to the defense the Steelers are in most often. Your weakest link was Beanie Bishop, and it was a pretty significant gap between finding the next guy who would be the weakest link. Yeah. Now it's Juan Thornhill, most likely, and it's not that bad of a drop off.
And he's a harder guy to attack. I can attack the slot corner like crazy. I mean, if I'm attacking a safety downfield, it's going to take longer to do it, and it's harder to pull off, and I can help him easier, and
Yeah, it's a lot easier to protect a center field free safety in cover 1 or cover 3 than it is to pretty much have to tailor your entire coverage schemes around corners that cannot do certain things like they had to do last year or they've had to do in pretty much so many previous years, because even after they drafted Joey Porter Jr., you're not trusting Levi Wallace to do that. You're not trusting Dante Jackson to do that.
Right.
Now
Jackson was a weak link too.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like corners will having corners that can man cover pretty much do almost everything solves a lot of issues for your defense. And if you're better in coverage, you're going to get more sacks, even if you don't blitz more.
Right. 100%. And if you can mix in blitzes, great. I mean, if TJ can not get doubled and tripled every time, great. I mentioned it earlier in the show. These are their numbers against slot receivers.
Oh, yeah. Bring it up. Yeah.
14.4 yards per catch.
Oh.
Last in the NFL.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
52% of their passing yards allowed were to slots, as were 10 of the 23 passing touchdowns they allowed.
Yeah.
So at least they recognize it. You know what I mean?
I mean,
they're not going to just roll out undrafted free agent slot guys anymore,
And the one good thing that I wanted to like the main takeaway I had, and this was like in the moment when the trade happened, was you cannot say that this team does not have any kind of sense of urgency about making changes after last year.
And I hate that the people, what's the plan? I don't understand the plan. Well, that's your fault. I mean, the plan's very obvious to me for short term and long term.
Yeah.
And they're trying to walk that fence of both, which is hard to do. But I really like their, what they've done.
He made this Omar, who, by the way, news of the day, we haven't even mentioned that Omar Khan got a contract extension. He made that trade without getting rid of any of his draft capital in 2026.
That's what I mean. And the other, okay, you lost your 5th round pick 2 years from now. Well, you'll trade a 6th next year and get that 5th back during the draft. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even know.
It's a day 3 pick. It's not even the best of the day 3 picks. You'll gladly take that. And even if you do, and now the thing is, like, you still have 12 picks lined up for next year.
But you're not going to use them all, by the way.
No, you're not going to use them all. You can still trade one of them to go get your WR2 during training camp or sometime in August. Get that guy. Dude,
they're set up so well. I mean, the fact that people don't think they have vision or plan makes me insane. Maybe it's not as easy to see for Joe Blow, but I think we do a good job of laying it out. And they're going to draft the quarterback the 1st round next year.
Probably. Most likely. That's what I'm guessing. But anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. This is a fun one. We'll definitely get more into I mean, shoot, man, we got less than 3 weeks of training camp already.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy how fast this is flying, but it also helps when you go on vacation for 10 days. So we'll be back next week. I'll definitely talk about more, whether it's another trade that happens, or maybe we'll just dive more into this stuff, man. What is this defense going to look like? Are they going to blitz more? Who knows?
Yeah,
but
we didn't talk about Jonnu Smith all that much. We'll talk about more.
We didn't even talk about Jonnu Smith almost at all, but yeah, that'd be curious. Yeah, let's go to Jonnu Smith next week. So, appreciate you guys checking in, listening in. We'll see you next week. Catch you on the Flippity Flip.